And welcome to the Aaron Katzman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katzman. We speak about your life, your money, and investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. As always, if you like this content, please hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, shockingly, it's hard to imagine. Please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. We're back with our continuation of the series on entrepreneurship after a short break talking about actually financial things, because that's what we sort of do for a living. But we're back to entrepreneurship, and it's my honor today to bring on the show Sacha Gorelik, who is Chief Copywriter and Brand Strategist for copywriter.com. She has been an e-commerce copywriter since 2018, bringing a mix of magic, madness, and creativity to every project. Over the years, she has helped companies from the US, Europe, Israel, Australia, and beyond connect to their customers and sell more effectively. She's married, she's got kids, she likes hiking and yoga. Sacha, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. So first, tell us, what is Ecom Copywriter?
Okay, so the Ecom Copywriter started almost by accident when I got pregnant with my second kid, and I wanted to have more flexibility in my life and, start working from home. And I actually started a separate business. We can talk about that afterwards, which kind of failed, which led me into copywriting. And I specifically started working with Amazon sellers. So I was doing, all the Amazon listing optimization, the keywords, and everything that goes into, your product listing on Amazon, which is pretty technical. And it was lots of fun. And then in the more recent years, I've branched out to doing more brand messaging, storytelling, because what I realized is that it's nice to have a nice product description, but there's a lot more to building a brand and really connecting with your customers, and creating more authenticity so that your brand is around for longer than just being another commodity or another, cheap product on Amazon. So that's kind of where it started and where it is now.
So sort of instead of yours truly begging for people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button, you sort of have a better process for doing that, right?
I mean, yes, yeah, I guess you could say it like that, yeah. So, where people should fall in love with you, they just automatically want to subscribe without you even asking.
So what's the process? Let's say I'm a seller. I've got a product. I sell pens, right? I sell pens. Okay. And I have no idea, how to work the Amazon system. I don't know how to get my name out there. I turn to you. What's sort of the process?
Okay. So in terms of actually setting up your Amazon store and all the technical side of things, that's not my area of expertise. What I can do for you is, once you have your Amazon store up and running, honestly, I'm working more with Shopify sellers at the moment. So whether it's your Amazon listing or your Shopify website or your email marketing, I can go in and say, this is what we can improve. A lot of sellers come to me and say, we know we can improve. They're ready to take it to the next level. They're ready to create a really, unique angle or positioning, or story or narrative that they want people to kind of fall in love with. So, the process is, I usually have a phone call, first of all, just to understand my client's business, what's going on with them, how long they've been in business for, what are their goals for the future, that kind of thing. And then once I understand the project, I send them a brief questionnaire where they give me all the lovely details about what they've got going on. And then I get to work and I produce words that I like to say make waves in what they're doing. Yeah.
Very cool. So you piqued my interest when you were starting talk at the beginning, when you were describing your business, because saying that you sort of got into this because you had another business which failed.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that whole story and how you got into this and what led into this.
Okay, it's an interesting story, and I've not spoken about it for a while, because when you have a failed business, it's kind of something that you're a little bit, I would say, not ashamed of, but you feel bad about yourself. So I did feel bad for a while because I did invest quite a bit of money into it. So I came up with this idea when I was just out of college. I wanted to create a website kind of like Etsy, but for Israeli artists. Now, something did exist in Israel. It's called Marmalade Market, I think. And I wanted to do something similar, but promote it to people in Chutz La'aretz who are outside of Israel that want to buy from and support Israeli artists. Now, the idea itself was a lovely idea, but I was just one person trying to build this marketplace website, do all the marketing, build the website with literally no budget. So what I was good at, though, was helping the artists create their product descriptions, because I was working with Israelis who didn't necessarily know good English. So I ended up doing a lot of the work for them in terms of getting their products on the website. I did a lot of storytelling for social media. So I was very successful in the fact that a lot of people knew the website's name, which was called the Sabra Patch. And people talked about it, but I didn't make any sales because there was I made a few sales, but there was so many technical bugs and problems with the website itself, and credit cards and processing and all these things that go with it. And so I had taken out a loan. Actually, I'm very transparent. I'd taken out a loan for around 20,000 shekel. And basically, because I saw the business wasn't really taking off, and somebody did give me some advice, he said, sometimes you just need to know that it's time to let go. You don't need to keep beating a dead horse kind of thing. You're very passionate about something, you want to build something, you want to succeed, but at some point you need to say, you know what, this isn't working, let's do something else. So at the same time as it was kind of failing, I started getting freelance gigs, and that kind of brought in my income, and I was able to pay off that loan and really build up my new business, which was copywriting. So that's the story.
Sort of in the infamous words of country singer Kenny Rogers, I think, right? Know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of the same, that's the same advice that you got. But then, so this is interesting because we hear this a lot, right? A lot of successful people haven't been successful from point A all the way through to wherever they're holding now in their life. And everybody has some failure story to tell, right? And they were able to get around it, right? Get over it, or use that as almost a starting point, a springboard, let's say.
Springboard, yeah.
Springboard, I think so. What did you take from that sort of failed business to incorporate into what you're doing now to sort of, get things working the right way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think what I did take was that you need to start small, because when I originally started that first business was that I tried to go too big, immediately. I should have started with a very, minimal viable product. That's what they call it. I could have just started a blog, and that may have been successful, but I tried to start something gigantic before I had any systems going. So in my copywriting business, what I did learn from that was that I started just by building my own very basic Wix website. Once I started getting clients and traction, then I was able to pay somebody to build me an even better website. And then I was able to pay someone to really do the branding for me and build out what I have now. And I constantly see myself growing. So I don't even think that that's going to be the final website forever. I think eventually that will change as well as I grow and evolve in what I do. So I think a lot of times when people are starting their own businesses, you think really big, and that's great. You can have this giant vision and goals, but sometimes you need to bring it back to reality and be what can I do right now? What do I have the resources to do right now? And then start from there. And then eventually you'll get to that, goal and that vision that you have.
That's great. That's really good advice, I think. I think we've all sort of been there. I think the sort of the big issue is how to scale, right? Once you learn that lesson that you have to start small,
correct,
and you internalize it, which is not such an easy thing for people to do, because everybody has their grandiose ideas, right? And just pick one because you're one person.
Yes.
How have you dealt with sort of trying to bring it to the next level, right? And scaling. I know personally, right? And I'm not interviewing myself, but that for years, everybody knows that's that's my challenge, how to scale the business.
Yeah, this is such a great question, because I still have an existential crisis for the last number of years, because as you grow, you're well, where could this go? But there are a number of ways to grow. There are ways where you can grow as a solopreneur, and there are ways you can grow where you end up building out an agency and hiring other people. So I did try the agency route, and I did hire other writers to help me with projects when things got really busy. And honestly, I didn't enjoy it. I was this is not for me. This is not why I started the business. I started what I do because I really enjoyed working one-on-one with the clients. I enjoyed doing the writing. So what I realized is that I needed to outsource the other tasks in my business that I didn't enjoy, such as sending out emails, building out the HTML for whatever, stuff on my website that needed to be fixed, like building landing pages, like those things. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I'll write the words. And then I read a really great book called Company of One by a guy named Paul Jarvis. And he basically talks about how you don't have to have a huge company and be constantly focused on growth to necessarily make the money and live the life that you want. Like I think I actually put together a whole presentation on this, but if you take a step back and like look at your life, what kind of life you want to have, how much time you want to have with your kids, with your family, with your freedom to do other hobbies and things. So how can you structure your business around that? And that's what I think really helps people. So I realized that I wanted to only work around 4 or 5 hours a day, which meant I need to be making X amount of money, which means that my packages need to be at a higher level now, because I don't want to have a huge volume of work coming in. I want to work with less clients who are at a higher level. So that's kind of how it happened. And it's definitely like, I think people should try things. And if it's working, that's great. Like if it doesn't work, so try something else. So I did, like I said, I did try the agency route. I did try and expand my team, but it wasn't really working for me in terms of what I was enjoying. Like I did make money, which was good. Like I made sure I had the profit margins there based on what I was paying people, but still I just felt like being Sacha Gorelik sort of by herself, who now partners with other agencies for different services, as opposed to having it all under my own umbrella, has really worked for me. Yeah.
Did you find that when you were working with other people on the professional side, that it was hard to give up control, and that at the end of the day, you were sort of critical of their final product and you said, well, I can do it better, so why should I outsource that?
Correct. That's exactly what happened. I was like, they did the work, it was good, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't exactly the way I wanted it. And like, I'm too nice also. I'm not like, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm not a good boss. Like, I'm not going to tell these people, can you change this? Can you change that? Like, I would make comments in the documents that they would send me, but at the end of the day, I just ended up like doing a lot of the editing myself, sending it off to the client. And it was basically my work, kind of. I mean, there were some writers I worked with that were definitely better than others. But it's hard to relinquish control, especially if you're the creative sort of mastermind behind what you do. And it's also like, what did you want, like, from your business? Like, I never started it with the goal of becoming a massive agency owner. And that's what I had to internalize, that, you know, it sounds great. Like, it's for your ego sometimes that people build up such big teams because it sounds amazing. Like, oh, I run a business with 50 employees, but you're actually bankrupt. Whereas like you could just be a solopreneur who's getting amazing clients and making between like, you know, $10,000 to $15,000 a month, but you're just on your own. It doesn't sound as cool. You're not running a business with 50 employees, but like, who cares? You know, you got what you wanted, which was, you know, you're making a good living and living a good life. Yeah.
So I think that your point is great. I mean, I'm thinking about it right now, that your choice of retaining control of the part of the business that you really, really liked, and then trying to outsource the parts of the business that you didn't like,
Right.
you know, is a way to scale your business as a sort of solopreneur. That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say, well, you know, I'm going to keep control of the part that I like, and everything else, whether it's the marketing or the media or, you know, the books or whatever it is, you know, well, that goes along with being a business owner, so I've got to do that also. And they don't really know how to even outsource that. So that's a really good, or they've never thought about that part being outsourced. So that's a
Right.
really good, that's fantastic advice.
Yeah, and one of the other things is that like partnering with the right people. Like I have got referrals from people in my industry that like know me, so they send me clients, and then at the same time I also bring clients to other services who are not my competitors but offering, you know, let's say website building or email marketing, social media. So I know where to send people, and then I can get commissions from that as well. So that's another sort of business model that people can think about, because sometimes you're just so trapped in like what you do, that you don't think of other ways to like make money. Yeah, so it's just another way.
So you told me you grew up in London?
Correct. Yes, I grew up in London and in Edgware, to be very specific.
Oh,
if anybody knows where that is. Yeah. Most people are like, oh, Golders Green. I'm like, no, we never went to. No, we did. We went to Golders Green, but and then we made Aliyah in 2005 when I was 14, ninth grade, and that was a fun time. Yes.
So when you grew up, did you like, did you sort of know that you were going to have your own business at the end of the day? Or is that something that was sort of that you knew, or is it something you sort of fell into?
Absolutely not. So I actually was a gymnast and I used to coach gymnastics. After I sort of stopped coaching gymnastics, I actually went and did a course in massage. I thought maybe I'd get into doing sports massage, sports rehab, that kind of thing. Then I decided I needed a degree. So at the same time, I went and did a degree in social sciences and got my BA. I didn't ever have sort of like a plan that I would run my own business, but I will say that I come from, my parents are both very entrepreneurial. They've always sort of done their own thing. My dad's tried different businesses over the years. Some have been more successful than others. But he and my mom have always been like really inspiring to take risks, see what works, and not necessarily just follow like the system of like going to college, getting a degree, getting a job. They're definitely very creative people. So I would say that has helped on my journey.
A lot of people ask, and it's a question that I always ask on during the series of entrepreneurship. If you could give like a tip or two to prospective entrepreneurs or people who are really, really thinking about doing it, what would those tips be? Like, what is something that you think is really sort of an integral part of being an entrepreneur?
Okay, that's a great question. There are so many things I could say right now. Let's just think off the top of my head, what are the integral parts of being an entrepreneur? Definitely not giving up easily and having what they say in Hebrew is rosh gadol. So if you're an entrepreneur, you can't wait for someone to tell you what's the next step. What you should, I mean, you can get a business coach, you can do that. But honestly, what I found is just, going after things myself and just keep going, and not necessarily like, I do have days, obviously that's the life of an entrepreneur, where you get down and you're like, why am I even doing this? Maybe I should just get a job. But like just keep going through those hard days. Like I try and always realize that like Hashem is really the one in control if your audience is religious. So I always, God really is the one that's controlling everything. And you can do, you make your best efforts, and at the end of the day, it's up to him. So that's one thing, is having faith and knowing that, don't look at what other people are doing. That's another thing, is that I've noticed that you see some people who seem to be getting ahead of you, who seem to be winning this entrepreneurial race, who seem to be building amazing companies. But you don't know any of the background that goes with it. You don't know what's behind them. Maybe they have parents who are very wealthy. Maybe they got investors. Maybe the way their brains work is just different than your brain. So, everybody has different things that will help them, but you need to focus on your strengths and not really worry about what other people are doing, because that's it's poison. It really is. It's so bad to look at other people's social media. Like, honestly, my social media accounts are rubbish. Like, if someone wants to look at it, I have hardly any followers on Instagram, but I have random videos on other people's YouTube channels that have thousands and thousands of views. And that's, you don't know that exists. So, it's very, just don't look at other people's things. So that's my two, I guess, best tips for being an entrepreneur, is doing what you can and knowing that you're not necessarily in control of everything, and don't look at what other people are doing. Yeah.
I think that's so important also, because the fact of the matter is, who cares what they're doing? I'm not one to talk. I look at what the competition is doing, and I do it, right? I'm not a big, sometimes we all have to practice what we preach, but that's one of the challenges that we all have. It's a challenge, right? We all have challenges. But like, who cares if they're more successful or less successful? Because you went into entrepreneurship. And I think this is important to keep focused on what your individual goal is. Everybody has their own things that drive them. For some, it's making $1 billion. But like you said, you want to work 4 hours a day.
Right.
Right. And you don't want to punch a clock, and you don't want to get stuck in traffic, and you want to have, but you want to work 4 hours a day and have family time. And that's your overriding goal. And we all have the things that sort of drive. I think every entrepreneur has something that drives them individually. So looking at somebody else isn't really relevant. And,
correct,
focusing on why you got into it in the first place, I think, is what's important.
Yeah, 100%. And also realizing where you are at what stage in your life. Like right now, I'm turning 32 very soon, and I have 4 small children. So I would love to make $1 million, but I know that that's not necessarily realistic right now for me because of, you know, the different responsibilities that I have in my life. But I know I could get there maybe in 10 years from now, and it doesn't have to happen tomorrow, you know? So that's also something to keep in mind.
That's great. And one last question. We talked about tips for entrepreneurs. You know, if somebody, we have a lot of people also who like are making Aliyah or have just made Aliyah and they're thinking about taking the plunge. Do you recommend that they sort of just jump in, or, you know, should they hold down another job while they're trying to research a little bit their business? Like, a lot of people give a lot of different answers. What would your take on that be?
I would say like the responsible thing to do, if you are the main breadwinner, you know, let's say the husband is, you know, the main breadwinner and he wants to start his own business, but he doesn't have an income, you know, a stable income. So what I'm saying, what I've managed to do is, I think it's been possible because my husband has had a steady job. He's the guy that has the salary. So there are months where I could do 30,000 shekel, which is wonderful, but there are also months where I've had zero income. And that's scary if you are the main breadwinner and you have kids and you have bills to pay. So I would say, like, until you have, you know, your business up and running properly and a good amount of income coming in, I would say getting a stable job probably is the more responsible way to go, unless you have backup. Like if you have, you know, enough, you know, money to kind of keep you going for a good amount of time until you get that going. There are some people that if you have like a really great startup idea or something like that, there are people that are willing to take the plunge, but it's a risk. You know, you have to be willing to do that. Like, are you willing to take out a loan or get investors and really like put your all into it? Like, do you have what it takes, I guess, to do that? So, yeah, I mean, making Aliyah, I think now it's so different. Like there are so many opportunities online. Like it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can find incredible opportunities for doing marketing, website building, SEO, PPC, like anything you want, basically, just from the comfort of your own home. So it doesn't matter if you're living in Israel or in America. There's a lot of things that you can get into that don't require you to be in a specific location. Yeah.
That's great. Sacha, I was remiss. How can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so you can find me at the ecomm copywriter.com. That's ECOMM copywriter.com. Or you can just type in Sacha Gorelik and find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. And yeah, get in touch if you have any questions or you need my help with your business.
And we'll put your all your contact information on the notes of the show as well, so people can find you when they watch the video. Sacha,
amazing.
Thanks so much for coming on. This is really, really good, really interesting.
I'm so glad. Yeah, it was great. It's a great conversation.
You've been tuning into the Aaron Katzman Show. We speak about your money, your life, and your investments. Once again, if you like this, hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, because I haven't paid Sacha to do it for me, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.